Hello and welcome. My name is Julie McCrossan, and today we're talking about the Rainbow Rights Toolkit, produced by COTA SA and supported by the South Australian Government's Office for Ageing Well. And our focus today is planning ahead for end-of-life care. Just before we meet our guest, Shannon Beresford, who's an end-of-life doula or death doula, let's begin with information about palliative care services in South Australia. Palliative care helps people of all ages with a life-limiting illness, and it helps us to live our life as fully and comfortably as possible. Palliative care identifies and treats symptoms which may be physical, emotional, spiritual, or social, and family, carers and friends can also receive practical and emotional support. And palliative care can be received at home, managed by general practitioners or community nurses, or we may be referred to a specialist palliative care service if that's what we need. Now, a death doula can be part of a palliative care team, but death doulas are not part of the public health system, so we need to arrange them privately. If you'd like to have a chat about palliative care in South Australia or seek additional information, you can call Palliative Care Connect on 1800 725 548, 1800 725 548, or go to the website palliativecareconnect.com.au. Well, hello and welcome. My name's Julie McCrossan, and it's my great pleasure to welcome Shannon Beresford to discuss the Rainbow Rights Toolkit, produced by COTA SA and supported by the South Australian Government's Office for Ageing Well. And the Rainbow Rights Toolkit, if you haven't looked at it yet, it was launched in 2024, and Shannon Beresford was there, along with a great big gathering of rainbow people, LGBTQ+ people, and their supporters, celebrating this marvellous overview of information for rainbow people in South Australia. Now, Shannon is an end-of-life doula and sound practitioner and the founder of an Adelaide-based practice specialising in end-of-life planning and support, and it's called Your Path Guide. Just to begin, you've worked so much with people and their partners and carers and friends who are experiencing the end of their life. Why is planning ahead for the end of life important, especially for rainbow people?
It's a really great question and a really important question, Julie. So I think we plan our whole lives. So we plan when we grow, when we go to school, we plan our degrees, we plan partners, houses, life, family, etc. And end of life is one thing that we all face together, but it's something that we just don't really want to think about. So bringing forward the idea of planning, it's a really interesting topic, a controversial topic as well. You know, death is still very much a taboo in society, but imagine a world where all of us can actually plan the way we want to exit this life. We've had a fabulous life, an interesting life, a tough life, but we can exit on our own terms. And that's why planning is really important.
I know you feel strongly about what you call death literacy, and that we need, in order to plan effectively and to have more control at that time in our life, we need to get comfortable with talking about death. Is that part of what you do as a doula, D-O-U-L-A? What does doula mean, and how do you help people to talk about death?
So doula actually is an ancient Greek word, and it means to be of service. And doulas, the concept of doula has been around for thousands of years. We were doing it back in ancient times, and doulas bring people into the world, and doulas help people leave this world. And it's extremely sacred and an amazing role. And death literacy is one of the key components where we really can help educate people. And it's all about trying to bring death away from that taboo that I mentioned earlier into more of a normal discussion, and trying to make death a bit more normal in our life. Death literacy, helping people to educate, to understand what dying means, what the dying process looks like. It's really important and adds a lot of value to both the person who is dying and those who are supporting them on that journey. So, very much to my heart.
And, this Rainbow Rights Toolkit, I should just say for people who are hearing about it for the first time, it deals with 4 key areas: overcoming discrimination, housing, health, and planning ahead. And obviously this conversation with Shannon is in planning ahead. And when I was preparing for this conversation, I thought, talking about our partner, if we have a partner or close friends, and their death literacy and support and conversations is equally important as the person who may be facing a life-threatening illness. That's a fair thing to say, isn't it? It's about all parties, not just the person who may be going to die.
Absolutely, Julie. It's almost as important as the person who's experiencing the life-limiting illness, the terminal illness, because caring is such a beautifully rewarding but very heavily demanding job. And if it's a partner, if it's someone within your inner circle who is doing that role, it is really important that they understand what's going on, that they feel comfortable, that they feel supported as well. And, I know that there's a carer's essay reference in the toolkit, and that's a really amazing resource for people to reach out to for carers support in particular if you're in that role.
Look, let's go to advanced care directives, because that's something you really want to talk about. And I should say there is a link to ACON Taking Control, LGBTQ plus toolkit for palliative care and end of life decisions. So there's a link in the toolkit to that website. Let's begin with advanced care directives. What are they, and why should we have one?
So an advanced care directive really is a written form of your wishes for when you can no longer speak, or your cognitive function has declined and diminished, that you're no longer able to communicate. So it actually replaces the old power of attorney, medical attorney, document we had here in South Australia. This is now a legally binding document, and it's extremely important to document every single wish that you can think of. And that includes whether you would like to be kept on life support, whether you would like to have a do not resuscitate order in place, down to things like who would you like to visit you in hospital when you can't speak and can't move? Is there someone that you don't want to visit you in hospital? Those things are really important to document, along with assigning what's called a substitute decision maker. And this is a very important role. It's a person who is assigned to actually speak on your behalf and to make medical decisions on your behalf when you can no longer do so. So yeah, an extremely important document, and one that everyone over the age of 18 should have. None of us know when our end of life will come. We hope to have a long and beautiful life, but sometimes that just doesn't happen. And it's really important to try and have this document prepared in advance.
I guess the important thing to say, isn't it, Shannon, is that we're talking about South Australia in these particular series of videos by Coda SA. And so Shannon's talking about South Australia. And in this series, we have a video interview with a lawyer, Robert Lempens, who goes into some detail about the documents we're referring to, including the enduring power of attorney, going predominantly to financial and property matters, and also the will, of course, which only takes effect when we actually die. But the Advanced Care Directive, that's one that's just so important to not only complete, but to talk to everybody about. Would you agree?
Absolutely agree. So it goes back to what we were talking about earlier of letting your partner and your inner circle know your wishes. So as you complete your advanced care directive and you have the document finalized, it is really advisable to share that with your immediate circle. And I keep referring to immediate circle because within our community, the gay community, LGBTQI, we sometimes don't have a traditional family as such. And so it really becomes those who are most important to you, those in your inner circle. And that may be your partner. It may be a traditional family. So it is very different for everybody, but really key to make sure that they're aware of your wishes. And, sharing that advanced care directive is really important. The other thing to remember with an advanced care directive is that is then also passed to medical teams, to hospitals, to ambulances. So one top tip for anyone who is listening and has got an advanced care directive form, keep them in a pocket, like a plastic pocket on your fridge with a magnet. The ambulance teams are trained to go and search the fridge first for documentation in an emergency. So our number one little tip for today is to do your advanced care directive and then pop it on the fridge.
Okay, thank you. And, some people put all these documents with their solicitor, but making sure that the people who are closest to you know exactly where they are, the fridge sounds fantastic. Look, let's move now to palliative care. This is something you're obviously involved with. If we're lucky enough to know that our death is approaching, we're able to work with the palliative care team. 2 or 3 key messages for planning ahead in relation to palliative care.
So palliative care is actually more of a concept rather than an actual medical thing. Yes, it incorporates medical, but it's very holistic. So from a planning perspective, the minute we receive a terminal diagnosis or even a sort of life-limiting severe diagnosis, I would recommend that you speak to your GP and engage a palliative care referral. Palliative care can then be with you on the journey, however long that takes, but they will then help you plan step by step as that journey goes along. So, I think there's 2 components for today's discussion. We're talking about future planning with advanced care directives, but palliative care, we're planning for that journey time from diagnosis to the end of life, to our death. And so that also involves a planning approach, I guess, and so important to kind of consider as well.
There is a link in the Rainbow Rights Toolkit to SA Health's Palliative Care Connect, which is all about palliative care and palliative care navigators. COTA SA have a section on their website called Rainbow Horizons, Don't Leave Me This Way, fostering intergenerational compassionate communities to support LGBTI plus people at the end of life. Now, it obviously has a whole range of services, and we'll talk perhaps about compassionate communities in a moment. But I'm just trying to give you the sense that there are links on this kit to a range of websites. You can go and have a look and find the one you're most comfortable with. I'll just mention again ACON, Taking Control, LGBTQ plus Toolkit for Palliative Care and End of Life Decisions. It's been your experience as a death doula working in partnership with palliative care services. Just if you could give us an example of how it can work well.
So at the moment, I have 2 active clients who I'm working with, and both have palliative care teams involved. So palliative care tends to cover the medical side of things. As a doula, I'm completely non-medical. So I step in and provide the support, the education, companionship to my clients on their journey, and have the luxury of spending more time than perhaps the traditional medical side, because there are so many demands on the resources within the healthcare space. But ideally, as we keep evolving our relationship together, end-of-life doulas are a new kind of concept here in Australia even, and also South Australia. So we are in our infancy working together and partnering, but the partnership is working really well, I must say, from my side. And I can see that really growing to help bring a really holistic end-of-life support to people dying in Australia in the future.
What does holistic mean? Can you turn that into examples?
So holistic actually means sort of mind, body, spirit. So it encompasses the medical side of things, the psychological side of things, the psychosocial, spiritual side of things as well. So we want to make sure that all of those elements of us as humans are supported equally throughout that journey.
Okay.
An example, for example, could be helping to connect someone with their priest, their rabbi, a spiritual advisor that they're comfortable with. It could also be talking to grief counselors or helping to connect people with psychotherapists and things like that as well, to kind of help with their mental state. Obviously, end-of-life journeys do bring up a whole bunch of emotions and anxiety, and all sorts of different things. So trying to help support that and plan for that is really important.
But let's move now to funerals and planning ahead. There is information in the kit about this as well. Again, some key tips, particularly for rainbow people.
Number one tip, funerals do not have to be traditional. So we are so conditioned as a society to have a stock standard funeral, particularly Western society, where we have a coffin, we have a venue, people sit, listen to a eulogy, say a few words, a photo shoot on the screen, and then tears, and then we have a cup of tea afterwards. And that's pretty much where the funeral space has been so far and still continues to be. However, funerals can be so much more. And, I love to think that our community is just so unique. We have our own style, our own flair. And funerals can be anything from having a living funeral, so actually having a funeral whilst you're still living, inviting the key important people in your life to come and celebrate your life. For you to be able to deliver your own eulogy, it's such an amazing experience and gift. Other very popular options now are what's called a direct cremation, where after death, loved ones can spend time with their person, and when they're ready, the body is collected and taken away, and almost immediately within the next few days cremated. The cremains or ashes are returned back, and then there's a chance to organise a beautiful memorial service, a real celebration of life that's perhaps not as morbid as having a coffin in the space. And these are becoming really popular because those memorials can be created however that person lived. If the person loved wearing Hawaiian shirts, everyone can come in their Hawaiian shirt and have a bit of a luau on their behalf. Or, someone might have been a drag queen and they can bring all the drag stars together and come and celebrate their life. And, invariably they're sitting on a table in an urn with a beautiful, magnificent photo, flowers, everything else, and it's personally tailor-made. So funerals as such, lots of options. Really try and research. There's some really interesting things on the internet, and I know there are a couple of links in the toolkit as well from a funeral perspective. We can think outside the square. I'm happy to talk to anybody if they would like some ideas. I think it's the perfect way for us to end and to celebrate our incredible lives.
I just thought I'd let people know that there is information on the kit about the South Australian Voluntary Assisted Dying Care Navigator Service. It's a bit of a mouthful. Voluntary Assisted Dying is often referred to as VAD because of the initials VAD. Again, I think state law is it can differ from state to state or even obviously country to country, depending on where you're watching this. So be very careful to check what the situation is where you are.
Voluntary assisted dying is legal in South Australia, and I believe all states now in Australia. However, it's still a very touchy topic, particularly amongst GPs. So you may find that if you have a regular GP and you have a terminal illness and want to explore what voluntary assisted dying means, what it looks like, what's involved, having that initial conversation with your GP may or may not lead you into that path. And if you don't get what you need from your GP, then I would recommend talking to the Connector service. But normally once you instigate and you ask and show an expression of interest in voluntary assisted dying, there is definitely a very defined process, a very strict process, but it can happen also very quickly as well. They can push through the process quickly. I would just suggest that, yes, if anyone is interested, to use that connector link in the toolkit to have a look.
And I'll just say the name of the website again, South Australian Voluntary Assisted Dying Care Navigator Service. I think that word navigator is used. And the clinicians involved in this kind of care do special training. And so that's reassuring as well. Before I let you go, I know that you're a sound practitioner as part of your work. Can you just explain what that means and how you might use it in the context of helping someone at the end of their life?
So as a sound practitioner, I work with the Tibetan sound bowls, which are the huge big brass metal bowls. The theory behind sound therapy is that the sounds created from these bowls emanate vibrations, energy, and the sound itself. And because our bodies are made up of energy and water, it resonates within the body and around the body. And the body heals itself by absorbing those energies. It's a very relaxing therapy, quite beneficial. It can do some amazing things without really understanding the true mechanics of it. We understand that the sound does affect our bodies, so, and there's some medical evidence of that. From an end-of-life perspective, it can bring a lot of comfort. It can just help bring stillness to the body to help heal any kind of small niggling little issues, anxiety, things like that. The sound therapy can be very gentle and calming, particularly when someone is sort of facing the last few days of their life.
That is so interesting. I was once quite seriously ill in hospital a few years ago with pneumonia, and a woman who does work in palliative care, in a palliative care unit, came to visit me as a friend. But she bought one of those bowls, and if that's the right word, and tapped it. And I'm very much a Western medicine model sort of girl, but it was enormously comforting. And so how interesting to hear that from you. And it's been an absolute delight talking to you. And I will just give another reminder to people that in this series of videos about the Rainbow Rights Toolkit, Robert Lempens, a South Australian lawyer, has an interview, and we'll go into those sorts of documents that were mentioned with great specificity about the South Australian law, remembering you need to check your local legal framework. So I want to thank Shannon for being with us. It's been great to talk to, and I really want to thank you for taking an active interest in the Rainbow Rights Toolkit. If you want to get the kit, it's online, so you can Google Rainbow Rights Toolkit SA and it will come up. And I really encourage you to share this video to help raise awareness about the kit among older rainbow people, or indeed all rainbow people, because the truth of the matter is planning for these matters is good to do at whatever age we are, and we can always update the documents and update our plans. But my name is Julie McCrossan. I look forward to seeing you at one of the other COTA SA Rainbow Rights Toolkit beautiful videos. Thank you. This interview was recorded on the land of the Kaurna people.